What's up, everybody? Welcome to wherever the hell this thing is. I don't know what happened. I was just hanging out here on our stream, and randomly Casey Hill and Jeremy Boudinet joined, or Boudinet. How do you say your last name, Jeremy?
Boudinet, like Chevrolet.
Yep. All these years, dude, I've lived in it like not knowing, and I've been afraid to ask, and it was too risky. But we're gonna do something fun today. We're gonna break down Petco, guys. Let's talk about Petco for a second. Casey, you had a cool stat you texted us before we recorded this thing. Give us the state of Petco.
Yeah, it's rough. So since IPO, the stock is down 87%. It's essentially lost 3/4 of its value, and it's kind of across pretty much every core business metric. It seems like it's been in decline for the last 5 years. It's struggling to keep up with massive online retailers like Amazon, and it's in a super competitive space. So PetSmart and a ton of other kind of tangential brands are eating more and more market share. And I think one of the things that we're going to kind of get into in this call is the change in kind of identity and maybe a little bit of a loss of that early identity where some people have those memories of getting a goldfish in a little bag or going and getting an iguana, and this kind of local spirit and identity that I think Petco had at one point in time, I don't think is there anymore. I think they've lost a big part of that. And so it's probably something that they're going to need to figure out how to bring back. And I just want to say one other quick contrast point. So if you look at things like Home Depot, I apologize. If you look at things like Home Depot over the last year, the stock is up 30%. So it's a really interesting contrast point. Like, why is their stock increasing? There's something about going in and getting stuff and interfacing with the staff and like that whole experience where somehow online hasn't eroded it, but for Petco, it has. And so I think it's going to be really interesting to unpack and try to not only figure out why, but hopefully give some great ideas for folks or great ideas for Petco for how they might address it.
Yeah. Quick question for both of you. Do you guys own pets?
I do.
What do you got?
I have a cat.
Let's get it rolling. What do you guys got for pets? Yeah. What do you got, Jeremy?
So I don't have a pet, but I spent last weekend pet sitting for my parents. They have a Maltese named Peaches. And my goal by the end of the weekend was that Peaches loved me more than she loved them. Mission accomplished. I let her sleep in bed with me. So that was an easy win. But no, I'm a huge pet lover here. Don't have one, but both my parents do.
I have 3 corgis, which many people that follow me online probably see me talk about them all the time online. They're very important to me. I don't have children. They're basically my children. I think this is actually really interesting because I'm Petco's target market. Casey, you are too, right? You have a pet? What do you got?
Yep. Yeah, I got a cat.
Oh, okay. What's your cat's name?
My cat's name's M.
Oh, cool. Like the Bond thing?
Yeah. Nice. Just like that.
Cool. Dude, that's badass. The point is, Jeremy, you kind of have fresh goggles as not a pet owner, just a marketer. And like, we're both like the people they're trying to go after. I thought it was interesting you brought up Home Depot. Here's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you guys Petco's website. And then I want to go look at Home Depot's website really quick. Is that cool with you? Let's see where that goes for a second.
Let's do it.
All right. So let's start with Petco's website. So this is Petco's website when you go to it right now. I assume you see my screen, right? I can't control it that much. Cool.
Yep.
So we go here really quick. And what's your first impression when you see this?
It's busy, right? Yeah. Like there's so many there's like multiple tabs. There's a scroller. Like it's very busy is my first thought.
Yeah. What do you got, Jeremy? What are you thinking?
I'm overwhelmed. You know, you get here and you got like the scrolling ads at the top and there's a search bar and you've got these weird coupons. It looks like, all right here in front of me. I don't know. It's impersonal and busy. It feels like.
I'll tell you the biggest thing that I felt when I first looked at this before we recorded was looking at the site and being like, you're throwing the whole kitchen sink at me.
Yep.
Like, I don't have a cat, and one of the sliders is talking about cats. I come down here and they're talking about savings. Maybe I'd pay full price for something on Petco before you even talk about savings with me. If I scroll down here, it's just basically an Amazon clone. Like this literally looks like
Mhm.
Amazon or another site that does the whole like deals by pet type would be like Cameo does this. Like if you go to Cameo's site, they do the same thing. Like what kind of celebrities do you want to get a cameo from? And they have the same exact format of rounding it out there. And then they have popular items here, and they're just throwing everything at you. It's a ton. And I don't know how I feel about this. The other problem is, and this is one of the fun parts about this assignment, Petco also has a brick and mortar store, and that's a huge part of the element here. Amazon doesn't have that. Petco's got a place you physically go and buy stuff if you need to, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's got to be like, it'd be interesting to look at the website as well. But when I think about Home Depot or I think about REI, I don't know about you guys, but there's certain stores where I go into the store and there's almost an experience. Like I feel like the staff when I go to Home Depot is going to be pretty knowledgeable. If I have a question about plumbing, if I have a question about something I don't know, I've had very good experiences historically talking with the team there. Same thing for REI. You look at a company like REI, I could buy that same outdoor gear for substantially cheaper, right? They're clearly not winning on price, but when you go there, people know the type of pitting, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to do an ice mountain trek. What do I need? People know there's that experience inside the actual store itself that I think is helping them vanguard the value of their brand.
Do you actually do that stuff, dude? You go on ice expeditions?
I did. I went on a mountain trek and I had to buy all the gear because I didn't know. I was like, I had to get spikes. I had to get like a special attachment that went over my shoe so that snow doesn't pour in the top. So I don't regularly, but when I did, I had to go to REI and talk to them. And they actually had people in the store who had done the exact trek that I was looking to do. And they're like,
Cool.
Here's everything you need. Like when you get to this inflection point at mile 15, do this. Like it was crazy.
I got a take I want to talk about for a second. Do you guys remember when shopping was fun? Shopping's supposed to be fun. I like shopping. And you know what? REI would be a really cool. It's one of those places you'd go on a Sunday and you'd hang out there for 2 hours, right? I mean,
I love REI.
Yeah. What do you got, Jeremy? What are you thinking?
I think, the common theme with Home Depot, because I've been to Home Depot a bunch, of course, and REI and all these guys, is you go in the store and there are people in there, everyone in there loves and geeks out over home renovation more than anyone else, It's like, going to like an Apple store, I don't know so much now, but it used to be like that too. Like you're talking about the most knowledgeable like tech geeks there are, and the whole thing's like a museum just dedicated to tech. And so I think about Petco and like the vibe. What if there was a vibe being like, when you go into Petco or you go on their website for that matter, these are people who love pets and love the idea of helping your pet as much as you do, and actually when we were just looking at that website, I didn't really get that vibe from the website, like I probably should have. So, but I think to everyone's point, that's why we like going to, stores. That's what makes shopping fun, is when you're in there with people who are subject matter experts. Going to a bookstore and like you got the guy who knows all the cool books, or a record store back in the day, and all that. I mean, that's kind of why we do in person, right? So, I just think those are common themes that I think we could apply to the discussion today.
So how do we make going to Petco, we'll talk about the website in a little while, but when we're actually going to the store, how do we create it to be more of an experience? What are some things we can do? Do you guys have any ideas?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I'll jump in one here to kick us off. So I got inspired because I take my daughter to the library. And when I take my daughter to the library, they host a scavenger hunt for the kids. And so every weekend they get like 100 kids in there. They have these stickers spread out all across, and everyone comes for this scavenger hunt. All the people bring their kids. And so one of the first things I'm thinking for Petco is, how do we get people back in the store? How do we create events or interesting things that give people a reason to go into Petco instead of just doing all their ordering online, right? And I think there's a couple different things we could do that might affect that foot traffic. But I think a scavenger hunt is a fun idea. It gets people bringing their kids. And while their kids are doing these activities, there's the ability to be kind of moseying all around the store. The last thing I'll note about a scavenger hunt specifically is, because things are hidden throughout the store, you actually have the ability to kind of push people to certain core spots that you want them to frequent, right? You have control over where you put the hidden sticker. So I think that'd be a really interesting play to try to create some localized events like that.
You know what that makes me think of? I live in New Hampshire, and one of the people that lives in New Hampshire is Dan Brown, the author of the Da Vinci Code. And he, in Exeter, New Hampshire, whenever he does a new book launch, he does a book reading at this bookstore. But one of the things that they do that's kind of fun to promote his new book is his publisher will actually go put a bunch of clues to solve stuff kind of like the Da Vinci Code around Exeter. And people flock from all over New England to come do these things. And they usually they have a cash prize at the end of it, like a treasure hunt. And there'll be buzz about it around town. Like people will be like, oh, did you see this clue? Do you get this thing? And people try and crack the case. You literally could do that in a retail experience like that and have it be like appealing for people too.
Totally.
Yeah.
So you could do a scavenger hunt. Maybe you do something with do you want people to bring their family too, right? Is that part of the appeal here? Like you make it more of an experience if you have someone bring their kids?
Totally. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I think another thing that I'd like to see is I know people bring their pets to Petco, but the layout doesn't have anything interesting for the pet. They put inventory in shelves. It literally looks like the pet section at Walmart. Like, why isn't there a little obstacle course for your pet to run in with Petco logos behind it so that you're putting it on social media? People put stuff online about their pets regularly, right? I mean, I don't know about you guys. I post my corgi crap all the time to the point where people are like, please stop posting your corgi stuff. You're a weirdo. Right?
No, I like yeah. So have you be, it's a smart idea too, because let's say you have like an Instagrammable sort of setup in Petco. Now you have people posting fun, basically they're advertising for Petco on their social feeds, like it's something where you have the community starting to promote, the experience. I kind of like that idea. It's a cool concept, like an obstacle course or something like that.
Yeah, you could do something where like you can have a red carpet when you walk in and then have a little backdrop with Petco and you could do a picture with your dog and have a little photo booth or like something like that. I mean, that's for dog owners. I assume they probably make the most money off of cat and dog owners, right? Those are the most popular pets in the United States.
Yeah, I would imagine that's the case. I think too, like I'm very bullish. Your idea, which in some ways is connected to like this exotic petting exhibit thing that I was thinking of, but I think the thing that ties all these together is like novelty wins. I think places can become known for a thing. And I think in our current age of social media, being known for a thing, even if it's like quirky or weird or like whatever it is, creates a massive amount of differentiation when the problem is that you're becoming commoditized. That's the core problem we're talking about today, right? You're becoming commoditized again. So it's like, what is making you notable in a social media world? So I love all those ideas that are making it compelling and novel, and people start to associate like, oh, Petco is known for X weird, quirky thing.
Yeah. I think I think of the city of Nashville. They have this freaking mural that everyone lines up in front of. It's like these big wings, and every girl that ever goes to Nashville ever now will take an Instagram photo in front of that. And Nashville's now like the #1 bachelorette party capital in the world. It's because I think every bachelorette party, it's like a rule, you have to go take a picture in front of this thing. But like if you're Petco, what if you had a cool mural of a bunch of famous, I don't know, dogs and cats from like the world of fiction, movies, Lassie, Garfield, Snoopy. You can go take a picture with your dog in front of that thing. You can post it. It's like a cool pic, something like that. It's just, not that hard to create. I mean, I think that would be impactful. So I like that idea.
What if Petco started the Pet Actor Hall of Fame?
Yes.
Right? I mean, that's a cool idea. Let's do something now. We talked about offline. Let's talk about online. I want to get Casey's thoughts on this because you work at like ActiveCampaign and have a lot of large companies that use ActiveCampaign every day. Is the goal of an offline business to get people online to go buy stuff offline? Or do you think Petco's goal is to get you to buy stuff online? Or what do you think their goal is actually, if you had to guess?
Yeah, I mean, here's what I'll tell you what I see. On the website, I see a bunch of moves to create subscriptions. Like they're kind of following the same playbook that Amazon did, which is like, let's try to get people to buy a bunch online. And then even from that homepage that you shared, there was a little section that's like subscribe and save, right? And so that save 35% on your repeat delivery, they're basically trying to say, let's go e-commerce. And then every large e-commerce brand wants to then say, how do we set up a recurring subscription? You're always going to need food. And so we're going to make it routine and you're going to get it every 2 weeks. We're going to deliver our bag of XYZ. So that's part of what I see. The other thing that they've done is they have grooming in store. They have vets in store. So clearly they understand that there's some utility to bringing people into the store.
Yeah.
But I think they haven't made it very exciting. And most pet owners that I know and that I've talked to don't differentiate Petco from any other. It's like people are broadly aware that Petco is a place they can go and buy dog food. They can buy cat food or they can buy like supplies, but it doesn't stand out at all, which is, I think, part of their fundamental problem. And most people, I don't know about you guys, like if someone said before this that Petco has vets in store, I would be like, I had no idea about that. I had zero visibility to that being a thing.
Yeah. Let's do something for a fun exercise. Check out Chewy's website. Did the tab switch or do I have to switch it?
Oh, you have to switch it.
You have to switch it. Yeah.
Chewy's literally looks almost the same.
Wow. My gosh.
I honestly, you guys probably
did the same company design this? It's literally
look. They literally.
Oh my gosh.
They literally have the same order for these things too. I think Chewy's is online only, right?
I've only heard of buying Chewy's online.
So only way I know about Chewy's is I got recruited to like interview there like 10 years ago. But I know that they're fairly popular and they do really well. Couple things that I'll give you an example that kind of feed off what you were talking about, Casey. Chewy's actually, they're really known for doing like really nice touch things online. For example, when you make a Chewy's account, they ask you to register your pets and put your pets in on the account. And when you put your pets on the account, they ask for their birthday and they'll send you discounts and stuff on the pet's birthday and send happy birthday stuff to your pet. The other thing that they do is if your pet passes away, they've been famous to send like care packages and stuff to people if they find out that their pet passes away, which makes people do post online and talk about it. Yeah, it's super cool, right? So, oh, go ahead. Sorry, Jeremy. Yeah.
No, I just want to say my mom's dog, Tater, who they had a chocolate lab, had him for 12 years, passed away literally like 3 months ago. And they were, I was actually there in town when it happened. They were devastated. I had actually gotten him a BarkBox subscription for years. That was like my gift, like for my mom for Mother's Day every year. But they would have loved a care package like from BarkBox or from Chewy or whoever, because they were broken up about it. So that's I just want to say that's a really good idea. I love that idea.
Yeah, and the thing is, when that person goes through that terrible experience, which losing a pet is super awful, when they go through that experience, what's going to happen is they're actually like, when they get their next pet, they're going to have to buy a bunch of stuff. Yep. And the platform that they make an account on with that experience is the account they're going to stick to. I just don't see that one. And it's funny with Petco, like, let's compare it back to Home Depot. You were talking about that for a second here, Casey. Like, Home Depot has people that go to their store all the time, and the experience at Home Depot, like, people are loyal to it. There's like a turf war between Home Depot and Lowe's, but like there's a vibe there, even though Home Depot is the leader for hardware stores in the United States.
Yeah, and I think Home Depot, like, it's kind of interesting. I would be curious to talk to more people. Like, I personally have only ever used the website at Home Depot for a search function. So I have actually used the website before when I'm like, I want to know if they have this thing in stock at this specific store. Yep. But all of like the experience of Home Depot is like in person. Like when I went to fix my sink, I like came in, I was like, can I talk to the plumbing person? And I had that conversation around like, hey, this is where I'm at. And I like showed them a picture and they were like, here's the size thing you need. And like, they walked me through how to replace that T-valve. And so I think that it's definitely led by the in-store experience, and the website is kind of a facilitator, because it's not like the Home Depot website looks amazing. Like In some ways, it also looks very cluttered and has a million things going on as well. But I think that's what's different.
I think.
Oh, good. Jeremy.
I was gonna say, what's funny for me, Home Depot. You know what I think about the Home Depot is College Game Day, college football. They're big time sponsors of that, and I just think they have really good brand, sort of like big brand advertising, if you will. You know, where they know their audience, guys who love to watch football. You know, is they're associating themselves with one of the things they love most. You know, and they're like it's this fun sort of Saturday thing, and you kind of like connote fun Saturday thing, going to Home Depot, shopping for some new stuff to, you know, improve your house. It's kind of it's a smart move.
All right, so let's scheme this for a second. Let's pretend that we talked about acquisition for a little bit on Petco and some stunts you can do to get people in the store. What about getting people to stay and come back? Do you guys have any ideas on ways you can get people to come back to Petco?
I have one that was inspired by Chipotle that ran this campaign. So Chipotle ran an SMS campaign. They basically sent it out and it was like, how healthy our ingredients are, take this quiz. And when you take the quiz, it essentially gives you back a coupon. You get like free guac, free chips, whatever different thing. So it's kind of like part to highlight one of their differentiators, quote unquote. And the other thing was just to bring traffic in. I think there's this opportunity. We've kind of been touching on it in a couple different facets, but to become more personalized. And if Petco asked about what is your pet, and then they sent questions about your specific pet, right? Like not even more specific than a dog, like your German Shepherd. Here's some cool facts or some interesting pieces about a German Shepherd specifically, right? Yeah. And then spit out coupons or something. It gives you that incentive to come in, but there's also this personalization. And one of the biggest currencies we have today is data, right? In the world of AI, it's like, what is the competitive advantage of brands? It's data. And so you're gaining some really, really powerful data if you learn the exact types of pets. They probably didn't have some of that information before when they were just selling dog and cat food. So I think an SMS campaign like that could be super interesting.
I wrote I made like a terrible mock-up. You guys can make fun of me really quick, but I was just saying this really quick. Did you guys see this that I was making?
This is great.
So I was thinking about like the copy could change to not tell us about your friend. It could be tell us about your pet. But like I was thinking you do a drop down of putting in a name. You put in what kind of animal it is, and you can pick a trait. And you make a generator of a bunch of traits. And what's cool is when you put this thing in, you could have like I literally used Firefly and made this in 2 seconds. They could literally use artwork made from AI to just go generate like cool looking art that customizes the site toward whatever you put in that description. And then that profile that you have the name of the dog, you have the name of the cat, whatever it is. You can build segmentation because guess what? Everybody here knows a dog named Max or Rover, or like there's like generic names that people reuse over and over again for animals. And then you can run tailored ads toward those people. You can you could literally make a post and I could literally make an infographic about corgis, send it to me, and hit a share button to go put it on social. And as a corgi owner, I'm going to do that because it gives me social currency that tells other people online, hey, I'm a corgi owner. I know here's some interesting facts about corgis. I'm going to share that with people, and the other people that I know on my feed and stuff are going to engage with that. And you just put a little watermark that reminds people that Petco exists.
That's right. I love these ideas. I'm kind of in the same camp as you guys. I create a quick little deal here. I'll show you guys. So every dog's got a birthday, right? Or a adoption day. So I'm inside Textla right now. Petco birthday message. I went and basically looked, and it looks like Petco has sent out in the past emails with coupons to dog owners, other dogs or other pet owners for their pet's birthday, but like an email with like a $5 coupon, I don't know. It's not as like, it feels like it should be a personal, we're wishing you happy birthday. We're going to be in the DMs, and then forget a coupon. Let's go with like a $50 gift card or something like that. So, you could use like a tool like Textla or any SMS marketing tool to come in and personalize it by the dog's name, by the owner's name, and offer up a quick coupon or a gift card to people. But I would definitely do that if I was them, because I mean, if you're ever going to spend money on a dog, it's going to be on their birthday, or a cat, you're going to go do on their birthday, right? And you're probably going to spend more than $50. You're going to go buy some new toys or something like that, or a new dog bed or whatever. So that was my idea.
Go ahead, Casey. Yeah, sorry.
I was just going to say, can I ask a question? What is going to make people, like with the SMS, how do we get folks to not be scared it's spam, right? Because we get so many texts, we get so many calls. And if someone gets a link from something and there's like 2 questions, do I remember opting in specifically for SMS? Yes. That's the first piece. And the second piece is there something inherent to this number that I see it and I don't like freak out? Because this happened, just really quick aside, with my bank recently. I got a notification that said, hey, there was like a charge on the card, and I didn't trust it. I thought it was fake because I was like, oh, I get so many spam messages. And then when I called them back, they said, oh, well, if it's from a shortened number, like 4 digits, it's probably actually from Wells Fargo versus the alternative. So I was like, that's interesting. But I'm curious what your guys' take is on that. Like, how do we get people to actually open and engage with those texts?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say you need to quickly call out, like, hi, this is your friends at Petco. So like they see it even in the text preview. And then if it's on if it is your pet's birthday and you're receiving the text, this is why I think timing matters. You don't just want to send them like a random, hey, here's a $50 gift card. Like if it's your pet's actual birthday, you're like, oh, this is great, and you've opted in. I think the timing is really critical. So that's my thoughts, Casey. Yeah.
Ryan, you're muted.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Sorry, I was coughing. I think the way that I would earn trust with text message is I would show information that they've given me that's not public information. Right. The other thing you can do is you can actually use media to get people to send something back. So like, for example, if I sent a text message out to all my Petco people for their birthday, I would say, hey, we're looking for a featured dog today to put on social. Text back a picture of your dog enjoying their birthday and we'll feature them. Now you're getting a back and forth. I'm not going to lie, guys. I see my wife, she'll go to in New England, we have a chain of coffee shops called Aroma Joe's. She'll get a coffee and take a picture of the coffee with the dog and be like, we're doing a coffee run. And she'll tag Aroma Joe's on it, and Aroma Joe's will reshare it. And she likes that because she's getting she's getting some buzz on the dog. And my wife's not like a crazy person that's nuts about social. She just is like, it's being funny and kind of interfacing with a brand. You can do media with text. That's the cool part about it, right?
You can. Yeah, that's a great idea. Go ahead, Casey.
I think it's all super helpful context with the personalized details. I totally agree. I guess the only other side of that would be, what is the dynamic right now for the opt-in process? Because this applies, I'm in the email world, and this debate and conversation happens very actively, because it used to be if someone buys your product, it was kind of like tacit opt-in, and they're like, well, we can email people, but people are getting kind of more and more critical there because they're getting a lot of unsubscribes. People are not happy because they didn't actually say, I want to receive. They just bought something from my e-commerce store. How does that translate in the SMS world in terms of the opt-in? How explicit does that have to be before we contact people?
Great question. I think most people who probably go and buy stuff at the store in Petco, I think they probably, it's like, do you have a phone number with us? If you probably have registered your phone number with Petco, I think that's an opt-in, which I think probably would most likely be done either at the store or online. So the rules are getting stricter, I will say. So, I think you probably would want to be careful with that. But I think it's something they're probably pushing with every in-store purchase, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I was actually thinking too, maybe that's the way that you have an identifier for your loyalty program too. You do it by email or phone number.
Yeah. I think it goes back to Ryan's idea of give us all your dog's information. I'm saying personalize this experience on the website to your dog. You put in your email and phone number to opt in and get those sort of rewards, right?
So
Yeah.
how do you so we've tackled a bunch of issues here with talking about fixing the website a little bit. We talked about making it more of an experience when you actually go to Petco's website. What are ways you can make someone feel better about Petco? There's always a classic quote. I love talking about this all the time, but there's that classic quote that if Nike opened a hotel, you would know what that hotel is going to be like. But if Marriott made a shoe, you wouldn't know what the shoe would look like. How do we make a brand for Petco that actually like gets someone to be like, oh man, I'm just like really loyal. They do everything right. How do they do that now after being like this pet store behemoth for 20 or 30 years?
I guess one of the things that I'm thinking in my head is we've talked about REI, we've talked about Home Depot, and one of the things is people. One of the things fundamentally is like the people have a level of expertise, and that's why people come in the store. That's why their brand is established in a certain way. So I guess I wonder, is there types of, I don't know if it's training or I'm trying to kind of put my finger on exactly what it is, but it feels like fundamentally brand is always going to be attached to some degree to the humans behind the scene. It feels like there's maybe something there that would make it compelling for people to, get their questions. They have vets in store, which is kind of interesting, right? I don't know what percentage do, but I read that on the kind of like marketing analysis recap. Like if there was some ability to like interface, quickly talk with people in store that might have some expertise, maybe there's something there that could develop into a more known differentiator.
Can I got an idea actually from you just talking right there, Casey. I'm noticing on here, why isn't there anything about like community? Like what if like we used to go to these corgi meetups in the seacoast in New Hampshire. So like we'd go to the beach and there'd be like 40 or 50 other corgi owners there. And all our dogs would run around and play and stuff. And people might do the same thing with like cat. You literally could do it for hamsters. You know what we used to do? When I was a kid, I used to go to these competitions where like you would make a maze and see how fast your hamster could go through it. I did that with my hamsters. I'm a weird guy. I feel weird. I feel like a weird guy, but like there's really, that could be part of getting the people into Petco is making it more of a communal thing, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think it goes. Go ahead, Casey.
No, you go.
I think it goes back to the original ideas Casey sort of threw out. Like, I mean, I love the idea of like an obstacle course. Maybe it was you, Ryan. I forget, it was one of y'all. Like an obstacle course in store. You have scavenger hunts. Those are inherently community building, and you would probably have someone leading those in store who's clearly like a dog owner or expert, I should say. So I think if you create those community events in the store that are very, designed to bring in a bunch of people at the same time, we're all dog owners, all that good stuff. The more you can do of that, that's going to lead to that outcome that y'all are talking about.
How can I ask, guys, how do we build the habit? Because it feels like part of the challenge here is whenever you're trying to change this, you're trying to create this adoption pattern. It feels like you have to build a habit. It takes time, right? It takes time for someone to associate REI and all these other brands we've been talking about with that thing. It's not going to happen overnight. So I could see the team looking at a lot of these ideas and being like, all right, we can go roll this out, spend a bunch of money. And then if it totally flops and nobody cares about the obstacle course and nobody's bringing their kids in,
right,
we just burned all this cash. So what is on the implementation side, the things that Petco needs to do to create the buzz and wind that allow this to turn into an actual habit, I think is a good question.
Oh man,
I've got thoughts on that because this is me coming from the cash strap startup world. So I would start with some digital campaigns or some cheap sort of out of office or out of home campaigns that would, start to raise that sort of vibe, if you will. So one thing I'll show you guys is let's go here. Did you guys know there are over 4,200 dog parks in the U.S.? Quite a few, right? What if Petco did somehow reach out to these guys, did some cheap advertising at these dog parks? They provided them with like branded toys and stuff in the dog park. Maybe they put some signage up. I can't imagine it would cost that much money. You know what I'm saying? Like you may start with like 100 in major cities where there's a Petco located. But now you're sort of starting to associate Petco in these places where, people are taking their dogs to have fun, to be part of a community, all that good stuff. It's not a heavy lift, and it's already something that's already built. Like these dog parks already exist, right? So that was one idea that I had. I don't know what you guys think about that, but that was one approach. Thoughts on that?
What it actually made me think about, like, what if Petco just went to dog parks on Saturdays and Sundays with a mobile truck and just
Great idea.
had stuff there that you could buy treats and toys for your dogs here at the dog park or something.
I like the mobile truck idea because, again, I keep coming back to this idea of novelty. How do we drive it? Because it's interesting. Like when you first explained that, Jeremy, one of the things I wrote down on my paper is awareness the problem, though? Right? Like one of the things I struggle with is that most people know Petco. If you were to do a brand awareness survey, like Petco is a pretty known brand. They're just not exciting. They're a commodity. Nobody like goes out of their way to go to Petco. Yeah. So it's an interesting challenge in that, like, I don't know that high level awareness is the challenge as much as figuring out how to get foot traffic in. And this is, I think this part would be for a whole different time, but also like, what is the core thing they want to sell or distribute? And is that differentiated in some way, right? Like if their business is hurting because it's like people all buy their dog food from Chewy or from some other brand, that was a core part of their business model and they're not winning in that, maybe there's some pivots that they need to do. And I think the novelty in these mobile trucks and these other things are a way for them to also, it's not only awareness, but it's like sales. It's like an actual way to change that current.
And I agree with you, man, because I think, and how I would devise this is like a novelty trucks, I think a good use for, but really it's an affinity problem, right? It's not an awareness problem. Like there's not an affinity. So, the idea should be somehow in however they would associate themselves with dog parks is that these dog parks are in some way being curated or aided by Petco because Petco loves dogs, right? And they love your pets. And they, are bringing some sort of value there. So, I like the idea. I like the idea of like the novelty of a truck or of like having toys there or like something that's like sponsored by Petco. That's a value add instead of just being like a sign. That's like, hey, Petco is this. Remember us. So I agree with you guys. I think the more maybe something creative in those locales that sparks affinity, I think should be the goal. With that campaign.
You know what you made me think of? Have you guys ever studied or learned about like brand archetypes?
Yeah.
Do you know about this, Casey?
I don't know exactly. Like, explain it. What you're going for when you say brand.
Yeah, I'm going to reference an old chart that I made, but the idea is that people can feel a certain way about a brand and have subconscious triggers that go through and make you think about that brand if that brand sticks to one brand archetype. So if you go do 1,000-foot view of Petco, we don't really have any feelings about them. They just are. If you couldn't say pet store, how would you describe Petco right now? Right? But if I said, hey, tell me about the people that drive Harley Davidsons, what would you guys say?
Oh yeah.
Well,
adventurous, outlaws, renegades.
They're badass. They're badasses.
Yeah.
Like Harley Davidson can go run an ad that says, may your next encounter with the law start with nice Harley. And they'll have a picture of a guy in a Harley Davidson and a cop pulling him over. And they can do that because there's a vibe there. There's something that you feel. Same thing with Jeep and Land Rover, right? They're both brands. There's tons of car brands out there. When you use a Jeep, you're thinking, I'm an adventurer. I'm going down on the trail. I'm going to make my own road. I'm going to do stuff like that. Motorcycles, another one, Indian motorcycles is really popular for trying to explore and be an explorer brand. If you pick a brand archetype and you stick to that brand archetype, you'll actually do a lot better with creating a vibe for your company that makes people think of you and it becomes part of your identity. I wear Vans skate shoes because I used to go to Vans Warped Tour and listen to punk bands. And it's my way of kind of feeling like I'm still like that kid that's going to skate parks and like listening to punk music, right? It's part of your identity with these brands. I don't go to Petco for any of that stuff. Like and the cool part is if you stick to these things in the 60s, these ad agencies used to hire psychologists on staff and they would figure out how to manipulate you with these campaigns to get you to feel like that brand is a particular thing. There's a bunch of them. I'll share. This is an old clip that I had from when I worked at Lead IQ, but these are the ones that we wrote down that we did once.
You guys were the jesters at Lead IQ, weren't you?
Yeah,
Ryan?
yeah,
I knew it. Yeah.
The whole idea here is you pick an archetype, and what it does is it makes you think of these brands when you're like, oh, that's really silly. Oh, you know what's funny? I saw this really funny sales video Lead IQ did the other day. I think right now the problem with Petco is they're probably trying to be the caregiver a little bit, but they're not. I don't think when I'm like, oh, I see myself being loyal to Petco because I'm also a caregiver. They're not really doing anything that says that. And so I think one of the ways that you can kind of create that brand affinity is to do a brand archetype exercise and say, how do we stand out? What are we doing that other brands aren't doing? Because there's really no difference between Chewy's and Petco, right? Or Chewy and Petco.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And I think there's it'd be interesting to see which approach they take. I think of like the Lover was one I liked, like intimate, and pets are they're part of the family, right? Like you love your pet. So I think there's like an approach there that could be really cool. In the intimacy, it goes back to all the things we talked about with you. If you were to provide a bunch of information about your pet on pet to give it to Petco, and they were to personalize the experience you had, and they would provide these like cool personal experiences in the their stores, there's an intimacy there to that you can't get anywhere else.
Why?
So I like the idea.
I was just gonna say, guys, why do you think though? Like, let's play devil's advocate for a second, and we say they've done some of the steps. They have grooming in store. That's kind of like this caretaker thing. They have vets in store. Like someone could say, look, they're trying to create this archetype right now by having these services. So why is that failing to create that image that they're clearly trying to go for in that context?
Yeah, I think it's honestly tied to it's tied to the stunts and the things that they do in their outreach out in the world don't fit that. It's not necessarily product. Like a Harley Davidson is an engine with metal, right? And two wheels. It's not the product that makes it. With Petco, it's the way they communicate. It's the vibe they give off. I mean, I'll give you an example. One of the classic lover brands about intimacy is Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift has changed music genres 3 times in her career. She was starting with country, then she did country pop. She did a little bit of a rap album, and now she's just a straight up pop star. And she's got legions of fans that follow everywhere because Taylor Swift is a lover brand. She literally had an album called Lover. She gives out, she's intimate. She shares that stuff. If you said describe Taylor Swift without talking about her music, people could do it. You can't do that with Petco right now. And it's like, yeah, they have grooming. Why don't they have, if they're a lover brand, why don't they tell people a little bit about like, hey, let me show you how you can comfort your dog? Like, why isn't there stuff that's on there for content that's teaching people how to like be a good, like how to love your dog and be respectful for it? I go search stuff. My dog's got in a fight this morning, for example. And I Googled, what do I do after my dog's getting in a fight? They got in a fight over some food crap. Like there was a little piece of kibble and they got in a little snafu or something. I Googled that. Petco had nothing come up. That's it. They could have got me on the store, and it could have even been a search. What do I do if my corgis fight? And then they could go retarget me with ads with corgis in it to be more personalized. And now I'm converting and being like, Petco gets me. But they're not doing that. They're not building the individual personas out.
Yeah, I've got a stunt actually that I had in mind that we did this at Ubiquitous. I think they could do something similar. This was the TikTok watching job that we did, and we paid a PR firm, Legacy Media, shouts out, $5,000 to do a big push around this, where we paid people $1,000 to watch TikTok. It was a job where you could go and you could apply and you watch TikTok for 8 hours. Petco should do we're getting paid $10,000 to the owner of the world's cutest pet, or of the US's cutest pet. Submit your pet, here via this application on petco.com. I'll show you guys. This was the application page we had. But can you imagine, like, if they're like, we love pets so much, we're going to pay you $10,000 just for how cute your pet is. Like, it shows like, okay, these guys love pets. They love cute animals. You're going to engage people who might not even be Petco customers. They're just anyone who has a pet that thinks cute. They're going to want 10 grand. They're going to submit, you submit a photo, you can submit an essay about it really quick about your pet. You can push it by the press. You can push on social. And you can sort of tell a cool story around it, which is that we love pets. We love cute pets. We honor your pets. We value your pets. We're going to pay you 10 grand just because we want to see all the cute pets. So you probably just create a ton of content around that if you're Petco that's basically crowdsourced, but they could be doing stuff like that. I think building up, a pretty strong wave of momentum for not that much money.
What do you guys think? So one thing I would be interested to get your guys' take on, we're talking about like contests. One of the problems I've seen historically for contests is that people join contests because they want the money versus any of the other associations. So that's like my risk factor when I see people that are giving away. That's, I think, the challenge point is how do you create that right segue? Because I've seen that happen before where people come in, they create a contest for the intentionality of driving attention to their brand, but they get a whole bunch of people that like don't even pay attention to the brand at all and are just like, I want X dollars or X like Tesla that you're giving away. And you get a bunch of that type of buy-in. That's been my historical experience. Ryan, I know you've run a lot of like these kind of competition things. So you might have some eye to that, but that would be my concern with the contest model.
I think what you need to do is you need to nurture once they've submitted their pet. Okay, they're pet owners. They're like a potential. I mean, they're in the market. They're a potential customer at that point. You should nurture them somehow. With like, hey, thanks for doing our contest. Here's a gift card. Here's a 25% off coupon, 3% off coupon. And then you announce the contest winner by email to them. You need to nurture them just like you would any other lead or retarget them, something like that. That's my take, Casey. But Ryan, what do you think, buddy?
Yeah, I was actually thinking about the problem with it is inconsistent messaging from the top of the funnel all the way through. You got to have the consistent vibe that you do from the beginning with the way you post on social, the way you get people into the contest, the way you execute the contest, the way you promote the people that are in the contest, the way that you do stuff after they've come into the contest to like have that whole vibe be the same thing from the beginning to the end. And that's where a lot of them will do these grabs where they're like, let's get everybody to do this thing. And then they don't deliver on that brand. I'll give you another example. You guys ever do the March Madness brackets that Quicken Loans does?
Every year.
Yes.
Yeah, they do a thing where like they get you to fill out your information. They basically get 100 million emails every year for this contest. And there's absolutely no reason to do stuff with Quicken Loans. They don't do it. If I were smart, I might do something to sync up Quicken Loans email list with competition and be competitive and move Quicken Loans into turning into like a Nike-like brand. It makes you a hero. And like the competitiveness to get someone into the bracket would align with Quicken Loans. Instead, we all shrug and say, I don't know anything about Quicken Loans. Like I don't have any consistency there. So your email programs that you build, that you're doing to stay on top and get in front of someone, the language and the stuff that you do in it needs to be consistent with that vibe you're trying to do. Taylor Swift, for example, let's go back to her for a second. Sorry, I keep talking about Taylor Swift. I'm just bringing it up. Taylor Swift won't just go like write an album that's about her love life and intimacy and reading her journal out loud and the lyrics and the product that she delivers. She won't just hide hints inside her CDs and her album art that you buy that will tell you like who's the song about. Like she'll uppercase the initials of the boyfriend she's had and stuff. Taylor Swift will also show that she loves her fans by going into their doorstop and knocking on their door and giving them gifts for Christmas. And they'll film it and then throw it up online and tag the people that they did. She went and saw people that were writing nice things about her when people are crapping on her over like a dispute with Kim Kardashian. And she went and found those people that were saying nice things about her, looked up their addresses and bought them stuff and sent it to their houses. And the box said, film while you're opening this. And people would grab their phone and film it and throw it up online. There are people literally crying over Taylor Swift sending them a gift in the mail saying, thanks for defending me. I appreciate it. That's a connection. Petco does not have that. Like, that's what it's about with a brand. And I know we're talking about a human being, but a company needs to sometimes act like a human. That's like the key thing here.
Yeah, I think this nuance that we're unpacking around these is actually super valuable for folks. I'm really glad we're doing it. It's like with SMS, the personal details part of that is important. And with the content and with the contest concept, it's tying it back because yeah, like I just had a experience at the last place I lived, Windsor Aviara. They ran like a pet of the month with a $200 certificate to whoever won. And we submitted, but I submitted because I wanted $200. Like, it's not like I'm more likely to recommend someone to Windsor. Maybe some people are. I don't know. Maybe I'm just cold hearted. But in my head, it did not register for me to be like, I'm going to advocate to this brand because they did that. It was like, I want $200. So why not? So I think that piece of tying it back is what is going to help people who want to run a contest actually get to the result they're trying to get to.
If you wanted to fit the Lever brand a little bit more, maybe what I would do with Petco is I think they're probably trying to do the Lever brand a little bit. I remember last year or 2 years ago, they did a ad during the Super Bowl where they have Snoop Dogg on it. And it like was silly. And it just didn't land with me because I'm like, when is Petco silly? They're not silly on their website. They don't try and do dogs and stuff. There's so many funny cat and dog videos online that you could just be like, hey, can I use this video and make a Petco ad? Here's a couple $100. Can we video and make an ad out of it for social? Like, they're not doing any of that community outreach stuff to do it. If you want to do the Lever brand, maybe what Petco could do is like don't just be like, hey, we're going to match and donate everything you spend on Black Friday this year. We're going to match the amount of spending with giving money to animal shelters. Go to an animal shelter and get an anecdotal example of someone of an animal that was able to go live for 3 months and got adopted, and then go follow that family around and tell that story and share that story and make people feel good. And then when they feel good, they'll remember to bring up Petco and they'll remember to go back to it. Like there's stuff like that you can do.
How do you get people to not fall into the trap? So you brought up Snoop Dogg, and what I think is funny is they ran that ad. I don't know if you guys remember this whole campaign where he posted and said, "I quit smoke. Like, please respect my privacy." And it was this huge thing, went super viral. But then the interesting part of this campaign is all this data came out afterwards. It was like, actually, it was a complete flop. It didn't sell any grills. And so that's the other interesting part for people that are thinking about using influencers or people that are thinking about like how to position that brand. It's how do you create something that really is impactful versus the smokeless grill where people are like, oh yeah, we love Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg's awesome, but they didn't tie it back in any meaningful way to the product.
Yeah, I think to that point, Casey, because I forget who, some famous agency did, it was a study. You guys might know the name. I forget the name, but it was like a brand people need to hear about a brand 22 times. They need to hear a message 22 times to remember it. So it's not about one big knockout punch. I think brands need to think about this as like, this is how do we do a long-term sustainable thing where it's over time, you're repeatedly hearing the same message over and over again. And by the time you might hear it 22 times over the course of 6 months, but the goal is like it's 6 months from now, people are like, yes, this is Petco. Like I've seen influencer campaigns with the Lover brand thing. I've seen press go out about like a contest about how much they love pets. If I go to the website, it's very personalized to, like my pet. It's a holistic sort of thing. And you don't have to spend a shit ton of money on Snoop Dogg to do that. You can go to Ryan's, but you can go give money away to 50 people who adopt pets a lot, in the Taylor Swift model, right? And publicize that, and people will love that. They'll love that as much as, paying a celebrity for a TV spot. So I think it goes back to like the archetype thing where you sell on the archetype and you think about a bunch of activations you can do that are cost effective and aligned to that archetype and are sustainable over a long-term period.
I want to prove a point to you guys on the persistence part of it. If I bring up Mint Mobile, what celebrity do you think of?
Ryan Reynolds.
Right?
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds didn't do one ad. Ryan Reynolds persistently was the spokesperson for Mint Mobile, and I guess he owned part of it too and made a lot of money when they got acquired by somebody. But that's kind of a better approach. Don't do a one-off with Snoop. Go do a bunch of stuff with Snoop Dogg. Yeah. Like Snoop Dogg should have been the face of Petco for 2 years. Honestly, it didn't even fit anyway. Go get a brand that aligns with the Lover brand you're trying to do, or the Caregiver brand that you're trying to do. Like that's also part of it too. There's tons of like people that have been out there that are caregivers that make that part of their vibe. Yeah. I think the key part is you're targeting humans. Companies need to act like humans. If you're not a human being, You're not going to land. If you do stuff that's not human, you're going to get bad results, and your IPO price is going to continue to, or your stock price will continue to collapse post IPO onward for the next 10 years. So I do want to, I think we do need to wrap up here. What do you guys want to do for closing thoughts? Let's start with Casey. What are your vibes here? What are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, I think this was really productive at what we've moved towards is how do you build a brand archetype? And then how do you align all of those campaigns to it? And the other piece that stands out to me is just novelty. And I encourage people, whether you're a huge brand like Petco or whether you're a small startup, like I am incredibly bullish about this idea is you need to stand out for something. And I think that's a sentiment that we all share. And I think hopefully something that people can walk away as they're kind of aligning that brand. What are you going to do that is really going to make you stand out in a meaningful way in what is often a very crowded ecosystem for many of the places that we operate our businesses? So I think those to me feel like some of the high level takeaways.
I love that. I think if I had to say it, I think it's clear. This is personal. Sorry, Petco team. It kind of feels like you're mailing it in, whether you're an agency or whatever. Don't mail it in. Do stuff. Attack it. Jeremy, what are your closing thoughts?
It's hard to beat what Casey just said because I think he absolutely nailed it. But I do think one interesting insight for me was, I think people think of brand and bottom line as so separate. But I mean, what we've sort of unpacked here is that, especially when you talk about a publicly traded company like Petco, there are clear, connections to that. And that you have to have a healthy, very strong brand that drives affinity. And it needs to, that will translate to revenue. And if you lose that, you might, think, okay, we're doing all this stuff that's like data driven to drive more revenue. It looks good from the CFO standpoint or something like that. But, brand is your core, it's your heartbeat, and you're only as strong once you get to be that big as your brand. So, I think there's some good opportunities for Petco to up level here, and I hope they do. So that when I do become a pet owner, I can go shop there. So,
I don't want to be cliche, but if I had to summarize that, it's basically simple, and it's actually what I would say for a closing thought here. Focus on why you're doing it, not what you're selling.
Yeah.
There's too much of that, and that's like what it kind of comes down to. I know it's cliche and everybody says that, but focus on the why, and good things will happen. Dudes, what an amazing time! I feel like I want to weep a little bit. I feel emotional about this. This was a wild ride. If you like this, go check out ActiveCampaign. Go check out Textla. Go check out Pitchfire. We're doing some cool stuff to help marketers and demand gen people. We really appreciate you watching this. Thank you, everyone.